So it's time to repot or remount our Bulbophyllum. We notice the wood is just completely disintegrated away from the plant. So it's time to get this back onto something so it can keep growing well. So this is what's left now. It's Bulbophyllum. Let's just clean it up, take off all the dead dying bulbs, back bulbs, and see how much of a plant we have left. What we do is we follow the rhizome along, cut it off just at the beginning of the bulb. See, that one's all soft and squishy, so it needed to come off too. Okay, we're going to leave these two pieces because they're intertwined and I don't want to disturb the roots too much, because the roots of Bulbophyllum are really fine and thin and they really don't like to be disturbed too much. So let's leave it there. One more little snip here. So we'll show you what we do here. Got some nice strong new small shoots coming there. This is the old dead back bulb, so we just cut it off as close as possible to the viable bulbs. Okay, so now we've got all our pieces and we can start deciding how and then what we're going to plant these into. So these are some of the different ways I'm going to be potting. One way that I particularly do like is these terracotta pots. These are soaked for a couple of days just to ensure that they're nice and wet inside. It's not also always necessary, but I just like to do it because the Bulbophyllums have such fine roots. I've got these old Vander baskets that I generally land up with a lot of, and these work really, really well. And then these wire baskets. These wire baskets, all I do is I take a round of shade netting that I put some cuts into, and then that's just inserted and that holds the media in nicely while still allowing the Bulbophyllum to root through. These homemade wire baskets that I make, these are just so cute and easy to do, and if you don't have anything else, it's a quick easy answer to it. And then of course just using fishing gut, which I wind around a log, and such an easy, beautiful way to display them. And the media I use in each of these is all slightly different, so let's get to that. There's sphagnum moss, a nice moistened long fiber sphagnum moss, and then of course our bark chips, the fine orchid bark and the medium orchid bark. In our terracotta pot, we're going to be putting layers of the fine orchid bark and the sphagnum moss. Because I'm probably going to be potting this slightly differently to what you expect. The reason I'm using the sphagnum moss is I want this media to hold as much moisture as possible. We'll take our Bulbophyllum and we're going to place them around the outside of the pot. You can't do this with a plastic pot because plastic isn't going to allow the water to be evaporated through the sides, which is what you want. You want the Bulbophyllum to actually root itself onto the terracotta, and that's where it's actually going to be drawing its moisture and its food from, is everything that passes through the terracotta. And that's why we want this nice moist mix in the middle, so it's going to keep allowing the terracotta to be moist and feeding the Bulbophyllum. So this one's a little bit tricky because it's a funnel shaped pot. If you're just tying on the outside, those are just going to slip straight off. So we first got to anchor it higher up. Okay, there we go. We've just loosely wired it now just to hold it up in place, and then we're going to wire right around the pot to get some good contact between the orchid itself and the terracotta. Here we can see we've pulled it nice and tight onto the terracotta, and that should just root on really easily. There we go, that's our first one done. In a deep, large bucket shaped like this, what I'm going to do is taking a handful of the medium-sized orchid bark, putting it down the bottom, and then mixing the two together again. Pull that right up to the brim. And this, because there's such a large volume in here, I'm not adding any of the sphagnum moss or anything else, because I want this to not hold too much moisture, because those fine roots can rot really easily. And with this, what we're going to do is we're going to just place a piece of this right onto the top. There we go, and we're not going to do terribly much more than that for that. And then some of these smaller back bulb pieces, all we're going to do is slide them in around the sides. These are going to root really easily through into the shade netting. And then that's all it needs to hold it in place. And then we can set up our hook. There we go, and that's ready to be put in place. And now these wonderful tiny little Vander baskets, they're so versatile. All I'm going to be doing is taking just the fine bark. All I do is take the fine bark and put that in there. You can, depending on your watering frequency, add some of that sphagnum moss in, because this will dry out quite quickly, but that's what I need for my environment. We have some good humidity, and just this bark like this is going to be just perfect. And we see how best it's going to sit on. We want some of it running around over the edge. We've got all these nice great big holes in it that this is just going to root through, and it allows the flowers to cascade out beautifully. We can bring this down towards the basket. There again, all the fabulous things about these little baskets. There's little holes everywhere for you to put your little ties through. And there we go. And just put one piece of bark over those little roots there, and that's ready to go again. There's just to show you how much these Bulbophyllums seem to like these little Vanderpot with almost no media left in it, but they get some good watering frequently, and they don't seem to mind having very little media. Also, any of these little pots with all these air holes do magnificently well for the Bulbophyllums. These sorts of pots are generally used for water plants, but I find they work particularly well for orchids as well. And then with the mounting and just using the gut, we see how well that works. And here we have just used cotton strips of fabric to tie it on, and we can see how well that's going in and around the hole.